What's going on, fam? Commanding General Yana had to get up in here with you, man, on a evil deal going down here, brother. Like, the amount of wickedness that is going on in here really will let you know why the Lord destroyed all them empires that was before us, man. Like, all those empires will regret for thousands of years from now. They will regret how vicious and evil they were to the Lord's chosen people, man, in these last days. These last days right now are days of serious judgment, and thanks be to the Most High that they are. You look at them wildfires out there, man, the Most High is putting hell down on this empire and all the empires in the world as they begin to become more and more evil towards the Lord's chosen. The more the Lord begins to punish them and to come down on them with pain and suffering, man. And it's spreading worldwide. The world is getting divided up by nations, man. China is fighting with India on their border. The Arab world are now aligning themselves. I know a lot of you heard about the two Arab countries, the United Arab Emirates and the other one, Bahrain, or one of those countries, got together with the so-called Jews.
For Donald Trump, the optics couldn't have been better. In the middle of his campaign for re-election, a historic signing ceremony normalizing relations between Israel and two Arab countries, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain.
These agreements will serve as the foundation for a comprehensive peace across the entire region.
To be clear, while some call it a peace deal, neither the UAE nor Bahrain were at war with Israel. And the UAE, one of the most modern states in the Arab world, has been doing business with Israel quietly for some time now.
They've been working together. Everybody like, oh my God, that was so. They've been working together. They just making it public now to give Donald Trump some juice and to get some weapons. They know he'll sell them some weapons. You can best believe if all this goes right, they get to get them some weapons and prepare for what they believe is coming, which is a big war in the Middle East, which of course is going to lead to the Third World War as prophesied in the Bible, man.
It's going to be peace in the Middle East.
Indeed, Trump today suggested more Arab countries will soon join in.
We're very far down the road with about five additional countries. Frankly, I think we could have had them here today.
And though much of today is about Arab countries now working with Israel, what all parties share is a common enemy in Iran. The deal unifies opposition to Iran in the Middle East, a key goal of Donald Trump. And with Trump's view that more states will soon sign on, also today a warning for Palestinians to get on board, or as Trump put it, be left out in the cold.
And let me tell you something, you're going to get a lot of comfort in these days if you learn the truth. If you running around in church and still listening to singing and sorry ass songs from these Christians that's killing us, then you're going to be confused and angry and twisted as you could be. But if you start to open up these scriptures and learn what it is the Most High has been showing us for so many years that we've been, as a people, we've been ignoring. You start looking at that and you're going to start to see really the beauty of the Most High in all that has gone on. See, the problem in this world is that it does not understand Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, the author that sent these prophets to lay down these works that they laid down for the last 5,000 years. That's the problem in this world. But the world is about to see him face to face pretty much with what he's doing. Now, that West Coast is on fire. That hurricane came on in and hit them southern states who have been so cruel to the Lord's chosen people, blacks, Latinos, and natives, man. These are the chosen people of the Lord. You had your time. You ruled over them. You ruled, all the families of the Edomites have ruled over them. Okay, since the 12th century, you was coming over here to the Americas, gobbling up the resources and just living deliciously off of the Northern Kingdom, the Latino tribes, man. You poured your religions on them. You poured your ideologies on them. You slaughtered them. You destroyed them. You experimented on them. But you haven't realized in this world that the judgment is coming and that now is time for you to get up off of their necks. But this particular story, boy, really is something evil. Let's check it out, okay? As House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the other Democrats demand an investigation on Tuesday into claims by a nurse at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention center in Georgia. In Georgia, like, why would you put anybody in detention in Georgia, seeing their track record of such horrible violations against humans? Like, any southern state should have nobody in custody. It should be illegal to have a prison in Georgia because of how vicious and cruel they've been to the Lord's chosen people throughout all slavery. But nonetheless, they have this detention center in there. The detainees there have been denied basic medical care and possibly subjected to hysterectomies. Man, and so in case you don't know what that is, that's when a doctor goes in and takes out the entire womb of a woman so she can't have any more babies, man. Like, why would that have to happen in a detention center? These are they being subjected to these, which means the accusation is that they don't have to have these hysterectomies, and it's always recommended for black women already and Latino women. The minute you get some fibroids or something like that, first thing they talking about is removing of the womb. Okay, and that's something that eventually will come out and see how wicked and horrible and evil that is, and along with who God knows what else they've been doing to slow down the population of the Lord's chosen people. Remember, it again, like I always bring out, the Egyptians tried it too, and so did other empires. They tried to lower that birth rate of the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes, that genealogy of those biblical people written of in the Bible, blacks, Latinos, and natives, that genealogy is a super genealogy. Okay, them genes and them abilities in those tribes are super abilities in those tribes. Okay, and when you start to really see how valuable, once again, because of our disgusting retrogressive leaders, man, black, Latino, and native, every last one of them, disgusting sellout pieces of garbage, have done so much to harm God's chosen people, have done so much to open the gate and allow the wolf to wipe them out, man. Some of our people, even some of our own Latino brothers and sisters working in these detention centers, okay, as enforcers, okay, against the Lord's chosen people, seeing the horrors that's in there. And you got groups of them turning around hating their own brothers and sisters who don't have papers. They done actually become racist against their own brothers and sisters who don't have papers from Esau, which is insanity, if you ask me.
Down there. What was going on?
This guy just started yelling, "Fuck Trump," and I'm only 16. I'm wearing a head. Go back to Mexico. Hey, go back to Mexico, fool. What's going on, man? You like it so bad? Go back. Why are you here?
Hating their own brothers and sisters who don't have papers. They done actually become racist against their own brothers and sisters who don't have papers from Esau, which is insanity, if you ask me. It is insanity, and they would be the only ones to do it. That's how you know they the 12 tribes, because you the only one that would, for not having papers from Esau, hate your own brothers, man. Same go for you Benjamites, those of you in the West Indies. A lot of Benjamites have no appreciation for the slaughtering that blacks went through in America to open up opportunities for the West Indian brothers and sisters to come up from the Caribbean. Now, on the flip side, I ain't gonna knock the Benjamites hard, because the Benjamites also became a lot of activists, man. A lot of black activists were Benjamites. A lot of them voices out there that you've heard of were Benjamites, man, howling like a wolf in that wind and bringing them tribes back together to wake up and to stand with the Most High. Okay, starting with that Benjamite music, okay? That, of course, went a little awry, and eventually they tried to wipe it out. You know what I mean? They trying to wipe it completely off of the islands because they don't want that type of spirit coming out of you on these nations, man, and prophesying against the evil that has been going on. And so we done become racist against our own 12 tribes, man. That's why you ain't gonna tell me, I'm not listening to no stupid black leader or Latino leader or native leader talking about some conflict between us and other tribes when we got an animal ruling over us that is wiping us out in what is beginning to appear as though a consolidated genocidal program is beginning to start to look like a genocidal program being done to the Lord's chosen people, man. Let me get a little bit more. Medical care possibly subjected to hysterectomies without their informed consent. Dawn Wooten, a registered nurse who worked full-time in Irwin County Detention Center until July, outlined her allegations in a complaint filed on Monday to the Department of Homeland Security, Office of Inspector General by a coalition of advocacy groups. If true, the appalling conditions described in the whistleblower's complaint, and this was one of the brothers and sisters that worked in there that decided to drop the bomb and let everybody know what was going on up inside there with his brothers and sisters, which is exactly what he's supposed to do, man. Exactly what he's supposed to do. Let me tell you something, man. The Lord called us, we are as sheep to the slaughter for a very good reason. Because a lot of our people would just like us to just die slow in this place. When you better stand up and get ready to do the things the Lord said to do for you and your people to survive this upcoming Third World War. Because it's on its way. It's in full swing. Okay? It's in full swing whether you know it or not. And you better not wait till it lands on your door. And I always bring out the Nazis, man. They knew how to gradually work you into your death camp and bring you to your end, man. And people are comparing these detainees camps to the Nazis. I was shocked when I went in and looked at the comments and the different things people were saying about this story. I was shocked to see how many people was recognizing this as being just like in Nazi Germany.
The Nazis modeled their eugenics program on theories developed in California.
That was my initial impetus, to look at sterilizations that occurred, in the early 1900s.
Scientists at Stanford promoted sterilization as a way to improve society and even traded papers in the 1930s with their Third Reich counterparts.
And so as I'm digging to try to learn more about historical eugenics, I get this tip that perhaps there was more current day sterilizations that had taken place, and that these sterilizations may have occurred in the prison.
That was the beginning of extermination in Nazi Germany. They used the medical industry, man. That's how they did it. They used the medical industry. They used nurses and doctors. And you're going to see in this video how they're taking the power out of doctors' hands. Like before, a doctor was the last say in everything. Now, you got the coronavirus. You don't even have doctors telling you what the hell is going on. You got computer whizzes, okay, trying to tell you how this thing is supposed to go when it's supposed to be doctors, man. But they taking that power away from doctors, and definitely they taking it away from them in these facilities and using them. They weaponizing them in certain ways. If this allegation is true, they are weaponizing these people, man, against the Lord's chosen people, and it's got to end, man. And it only ends one way. It only ends one way. Don't be fooled. There is a power in heaven. You think this earth was just formed because molecules came here and this happened and that happened and it just evolved through evolution? You still believe in stupid Darwin's theory, a eugenicist, a white supremacist, man, a cat that thought, through selection, he could make a master race, Charles Darwin. Like, we still walking around with that brainwashing in our mind. You think that it naturally, over millions of years, the sun got formed, these planets got formed, this water got formed, this earth got formed, all these life forms came up just out of natural selection, just out of gene splicing and all this? That's why the Most High said in the scriptures, your science is falsely caused, man. Like, this is a wicked, wicked thing being done to these sisters, man, in such horrible conditions. Let me tell you something, man. Just going to jail alone is a horrendous experience. Just going to be put in a cage and to be cut off from family and friends, taken away from your ability to move freely, you understand, controlled environment, forget about all the things that go on in a prison. That in itself is already a horror story. Now, the argument would be, well, if you committed a crime, this, that, and the other. But a person that is running from asylum in countries that you sold weapons to, in countries that you created wars in, and you put them in cages because they running away from being slaughtered with their children. That in itself is a horrific experience. Now, imagine you having to be in a prison and having to protect your little child in the prison. I couldn't even imagine that. I could not even imagine having a 3-year-old. I'm in jail, and I got a 3-year-old in this jail with me that I got to protect and make sure it's fed and is healthy and safe every day, and myself. That's a nightmare. That's a absolute nightmare. Now you add on top of that you can't speak the language, and they know you can't speak the language, and not making any effort to make sure you have proper translators so you can understand what's going on. Well, now you done went to insanity now. You done went to complete insanity on this earth, which is why me, myself, and those that roll in this truth, we care about the truth, and we care about Christ ruling, because Christ gonna rule with power. And that power is going to put down evil in this world. And let me tell you something. If you a heathen or another nation or something like that, really you should be trying to be down with Christ also. I'm going to tell you why. Because your country is screwed up. Your nation is messed up. Your gods have been false. Your way of life is destroyed. You got nations on your border ready to go to war with you. Nuclear weapons and all type of chemical weapons and biological weapons sitting in storehouses all over this earth ready to devastate this planet, man. Well, you should be on board with Christ too. You understand? But being a selfish beast, you care more about you having power than you care about whether or not there'll be a future for you and your people, man. Because if you had 2 bits of sense, you would get yourself up under Christ and recognize that his nation will rule, but you'll have a chance to live and function on this planet, man. But you too proud for that. Well, you hold on to your gods, man. We found the nigger God. We're going to serve him, and we're going to find out which God is really the God of all gods. Okay? We're going to find out who the real dude is that said there is no other gods but him. We're going to figure that out, because this is insane what they doing to these brothers and sisters, man. Let's read on a little bit more. If true, the appalling conditions described in the whistleblower's complaint, including allegations of mass hysterectomies being performed on vulnerable immigrant women. Vulnerable because 1, they got no rights. Vulnerable because 2, they don't speak the language. Vulnerable because they under stressful conditions and don't even know what they should or should not do. And in fear to go against whatever it is that these people want them to do. They want to cut down the population, and all nations have done it. There's 2 things you can count on whenever an empire becomes super powerful. You can count on them consolidating all the people into under one religion and one ideology, and you can count on them performing genocide on the population, because what they really want is to, all of them have wanted this. This ain't nothing new. This ain't just to Esau. They've all wanted this. They've all wanted what Christ promised to those 12 tribes, which is this. They want to rule the empire, but they don't want the empire so big that they can't control the earth. So they want the empire smaller, where they can control the earth, control the resources. They think that'll make peaceful ways of life and people won't have to fight over resources. But so meanwhile, in their mind, cutting the people off. Go read the scriptures, man. You ain't gonna see it in their history books. And that's something else, man. How dumb and stupid could we be? We're coming out of captivity. We gotta wake up, man, and start to see the world the way it really is. The people that have ruled these empires, they don't write their history and all the vile things that they do. You will know, you can't even find no vile things that they do. Hell, they saying now Egypt had no slaves. When ancient Egypt was a vile and horrible place. A vile and horrible bunch of genocidal maniacs chasing every crumb of gold they could get in their hands until the Lord brought destruction down on them. And not just them, but many empires over the years have had that same demon and that same spirit. And that's why the Lord's people are going to rule this earth, man, and it is going to be glorious. I'm going to show it to you, too. Here's what it says. Including allegations of mass hysterectomies being performed on vulnerable immigrant women are a staggering abuse of human rights. The DHS Inspector General must immediately investigate. This is what Pelosi's saying. Of course, she might even know about it. Who knows? Because them Democrats talking all that, all sides is evil as hell. 4 years ago, they had detention centers before Trump got in office. They was taking, they had to, supposedly, this was going to be their deterrent, which show you they lie so much and it's so evil. Their deterrent was, we're gonna stop immigrants at the border. This 4 years ago, before Trump. We're gonna stop immigrants at the border. We're gonna lock them in detention centers as a deterrent so that they would not, keep migrating, trying to migrate into the United States. When everybody know that that was a lie. That the real purpose is starting to come out now. The real purpose and ideas, and you'll hear about them more, just like you hearing about all the things they did in the 60s, all the LSD experiments, the syphilis experiments, the Tuskegee Airmen.
Through candles and song, loved ones remember their relatives who were subject to a cruel medical experiment at the hands of the United States government.
They were never told that they had the disease.
For 40 years, starting in 1932, medical workers withheld treatment for hundreds of unsuspecting black men infected with syphilis. The purpose? So doctors could track the ravages of the horrid illness and dissect their bodies afterward in what became known as the Tuskegee study.
And for the sake of science, they sacrificed some human beings. And it raised the question, did they really believe these men were human beings? And so we really wonder about their intention as well as their behavior.
The Associated Press exposed the study in 1972, leading to its end.
It is against everything our country stands for.
And 20 years ago this May, President Bill Clinton apologized for the U.S. government.
What the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry.
But even with an apology and a $9 million settlement, relatives of the men still struggle with the stigma of being linked to the experiment. For the first time, AP cameras were allowed in an annual gathering in Tuskegee, where descendants shared their pain and honored the victims.
My grandmother was affected, and she still had traces of syphilis in her system.
Henry Talley Jr.'s grandmother and grandfather have since died, along with every remaining participant in the study. A class action lawsuit filed in 1973 has outlived them all, and litigation continues to this day.
We owe them, not just financially, but we owe them to let people know their story.
Stories they want to keep in the public so the country never forgets.
You know, the gonorrhea, whatever it was that they poured, or herpes, I think it was, that they poured out in Guatemala. All the drugs and the schemes and the plots and the killing and the murder and the assassinations and all this evil that have gone on in the earth. You'll hear about all of it. Okay? 20 years from now, when the people are dead. Thanks be to the Lord. We're going to raise Christ up in here, man. We're going to raise that black man's word and that black man's spirit and that black man's voice up in this earth, and the Lord is going to step in. I pray the angels, I pray Michael bellow over and vomit before the throne of the Most High And I pray the Most High turned to Michael and said, what is this? Why hast thou done this before my throne? And I pray he turned to the Lord and say, I could not withstand, Lord, for the evil that is being done in the earth, man. I pray he say that. Matter of fact, let me get this scripture because I love this scripture on it. Hold on one second. And I pray the Most High turn around and say, man, why did you do this? Why have you done this? And he turned around and say, I could not contain, Lord, for the evil that they've done. That's what I pray. But listen, I wanted to read this real quick. Y'all know this. Revelation 6 and 9 and 10. 6 and 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar of the souls, under the altar, the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High, and for the testimony which they held. And let me tell you something you better understand. John the Revelator saw this vision. And as he looking up and seeing this vision, he's seeing the angel open up seals like you would that come from a king. These seals come from the Most High. And when he saw this, he saw him open this seal. And what you should understand and know is that the Bible is real. And that these prophecies that are written in this Bible, in the book of Revelation and throughout the entire Bible, that these prophecies will come to pass. So as you read in this, know that this ain't something that's thought about. This is going to happen. And he said this, oh Lord, he said this, middle of 9th verse, I saw under the altar, meaning under the altar where the sacrifice is made, the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High and for the testimony which they held. For those that have turned to the righteousness of the Lord because they believe in the Most High power. And because they turned to that righteousness, they got slain. They got slain coming up against this evil empire, man, and against this evil world that we live in. Most High gonna turn around, man, and you're gonna see them delivered, man. You're gonna see them delivered. You're gonna see those people in them cages. They're gonna turn to the Father. They're gonna give up Catholicism and Christianity. They're gonna give up these lies and Islam and all these religions. Give these nations back their gods, man. Give them back their gods. Get your God. Find your God and call on him because he's written of in the Bible. They've been using your God and giving him different names and putting him out there like he's their God. Kind of ridiculous this is that. They done turned a black man named Jesus Christ, made him white, and then put him out there like that was their God. The Arabs just dismissed what Moses did and dismissed what Abraham did and turned the whole story around, came out with their own record, and then turned around and said, this God come from us. Everybody has stolen your God except you. Get your God back, man. You need your God now. You need the nigger God right now. You need the Latino God right now. You need the native God right now, and he's recorded in the Bible, man. Let me get some more. Here's what he said. Middle of the night, going towards the end of the night, slain for the Lord and for the testimony which they held. 10th verse. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord? This is what you're supposed to be crying out for, man. How long, Lord? Holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? Like you don't understand this Bible, man. This is going to happen, man. These prophecies are going to happen, and thanks be to the Lord, because this is ridiculous, man, and unnecessary. We in the richest, most powerful country in the world. We built you, Edomites, the empire of a lifetime. We built you the greatest empire on the face of all the earth of all time. And it's still not enough. Now you want to pull the Nazism on us. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. 11th verse, Revelation 6 and 11. And white robes was given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. We coming to the end of that fulfillment. John saw this 2,000 years ago. We coming to the end of that fulfillment, and it's going to be a shockwave on this world, because they all thinking that God loved them and God is going to deliver them and all this, that God is going to do right by them, when meanwhile what you're doing in these detention centers to these people, man, women and children, something that always was off limits in wars, man, was always off limits, man. But to do this to them is just, ridiculously heinous, man. Ridiculously heinous. Here's what it says. I'm going back to the article now. ICE officials on Tuesday promised to cooperate with the investigation, but denied the widespread hysterectomies were performed at this Georgia facility in Irwin. According to ICE, just 2 such procedures have been performed on detainees since 2018. And let me tell you something, that sounds so like a lie. In 2 years, they only performed 2 of these, and all of a sudden, remember, over 2 years, they only performed 2, and all of a sudden, some whistleblower pops up after the second hysterectomy. In 2 years, all of a sudden, some whistleblower pops up now and says they doing massive hysterectomy. So this is a total fabrication. They lying about the whole thing. This is madness, man. Madness and evil, and and you going to angry the Holy One of Israel, and he is going to come down on this earth like he have many times on many nations, and he is going to punish this earth. It's already happening now. West Coast is, the sky is red, and you have not figured it out yet. You will, though. You will figure this out. Okay, let's go. Here's what it says. This is just crazy. Here's what it said. The accusations will be fully investigated by an independent office. However, thank goodness, because if it was investigated by them, which is usually the case, who knows what the outcome would be. ICE vehemently disputes the implication that detainees are used for experimental medical procedures. I don't even know how did that came in. How did that come in that they experimental medical procedures? Why is it they denying that? Because that wasn't even in the complaint. So why are they denying that detainees are being used for experimental medical procedures, man? That's crazy, man. That's crazy talk right there. And you know what? And blacks and Latinos and natives, you must be having a lot of babies. And you must be frightening these people to death because, between the abortions, between, whatever they feeding and giving us that done stopped us from having 12 and 13 babies each. Now we down to 1 or 2 and 3 at the most in many cases. Okay, between all of that, and yet they still got to come up with another way. Something is amiss here, and it is foolish. After reading the Bible, it is foolish to think that that this nation, like so many in the past, would not consider some type of final solution on us. If white people could have done it to so-called white Jews, you think with our reputation, with these people, and the amount of hatred that they have for us, even after we served them for hundreds of years as their slaves, you think that it's beyond the pale for them to say to themselves, let's do what so many other empires tried to do in the past. Let's exterminate them. You think that's an impossibility? You better wake up and read this Bible. Like, these stories is in there for a good reason. A lot of people tried to dismiss. It was one time when you couldn't even read the Old Testament. They dismissed the Old Testament and said that was the old way. Jesus is love and Jesus is this, and tried to make the Bible out like it was some sweet, loving fairy tale. And meanwhile, all these stories is in here that seem so horrible, and you ask yourself why God would have these stories in the Bible when they in there so you could know what you're dealing with now in the time of the end. That's why they in there. They in there for your education so you can stop playing with God's word and start to do what he said, because this is crazy, man. This is madness right here. Let me get a little bit more. Okay. According to ICE, just 2 procedures have been performed on detainees since 2018. That sounds crazy. Let's see when all of the report comes out in the wash. The accusations will be fully investigated by an independent officer. Brought that part out. Vehemently disputes the implication that detainees are used for experimental medical procedures, said Ada Rivera. Now here's a Latino, medical director of the ICE Health Services Corps. But what the hell is a sister doing in charge of that? How could you, and if they doing that and that sister knows about it, man, once again, that damn Christianity makes you a cold-blooded murderer, man. Here's what she said. To be clear, medical care decisions concerning detainees are made by medical personnel. Okay? This is insane. Medical care decisions concerning detainees are made by medical personnel, not by law enforcement personnel. First of all, it's not supposed to be made by medical personnel. It's supposed to be made by the patient, not by medical personnel. Medical personnel, just because now you are going to refer to the doctor. Now you're going to tell the doctor, okay, you can do this and do that when it comes to hysterectomy. And then you're going to say, you're going to hide behind the fact that it's medical care. So, hey, you got nothing to do with it. This is evil and wicked and just foul and vile as it could be, man. Foul and vile as it can be. Okay? Detainees are afforded informed consent. Like, this is so heinous right here. It says detainees are afforded informed consent, meaning they got informed consent about what's going on. Now let's read what informed consent really is. Informed consent is permission granted in the knowledge of the possible consequences. Typically, that which is given by a patient to a doctor for treatment with full knowledge of the possible risk and benefits. So in other words, you give an informed consent because something is happening to you that could harm yourself. So being informed, you make that decision. Being informed of what could happen to you, you decide to make that decision. Here's what's so evil about it. You have people locked up in detention centers. What are you informing them of that's making them want to have these hysterectomies or believe that they have to have it? And how in the hell are you conveying it when they don't even speak English? It's monstrous. And then just examining the history of America's policing and prison way of life, I could imagine the horrors going on in these places.
This facility is basically a hub for unaccompanied children, and it's now the target of a restraining order filed just overnight alleging that conditions inside are unsafe and unsanitary. Now, in our tour, we did see plenty of toothpaste and toothbrushes and soap, but this is basically a jail setup, and it's jarring to see toddlers walking inside cells, kids the same age as the little girl in that picture.
With their babies.
This haunting image, Oscar Ramirez, his daughter Valeria tucked into his shirt, her arm draped over his neck, drowned on the banks of the Rio Grande.
Okay, and I don't even want to go to the point of the situation where their babies are by themselves. And I bet you, eventually it'll come out what they're doing with children in these incarcerated places around this country. I bet you they're turning out destroyed human beings, man. Destroyed human beings because of what they're doing in these different places around this country. I'm talking about blacks as well, natives, all of us.
President's actions at the border are a whirlwind of incompetence, leading to pictures like this.
President Trump blaming the tragedy on Democrats and what he called open borders.
And open borders mean crime, and open borders mean people drowning in the rivers.
But scrutiny is also mounting on the government's handling of children's detention centers. Overnight, a restraining order filed against 2 Texas facilities demanding immediate remedy for the public health emergency at the facilities. ABC News got a chance to see one of the 2 facilities in the restraining order, but no cameras allowed.
Any chance to actually take these cameras inside to show people what's really going on?
No, it's a pen and pad tour.
And we were also forbidden from speaking with any of the children. Now, this facility was designed to accommodate about 100 people for 8 to 12 hours, but it's had up to 700 children inside, and their average stay right now is 6 to 10 days, a situation that even the Border Patrol admits it just can't cope with.
Like, this is a nightmare, man, for a certain part of the population. And the other part of the population is totally, they can't even fathom that something is wrong. Life is so good for them that they can't even fathom that anything is going wrong. And which is why the Lord have wiped out so many empires on this earth. It's why God's judgment. Why? Without God, without Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua, the earth would be doomed under you heathens, man. Your earth would be doomed without him.
One of Canada's newest senators is calling on her fellow senators to look into the forced sterilization of Indigenous women across Canada. Yvonne Boyer was named to represent Ontario in the Senate just this March. She's Métis, and she has a background in nursing and in law, and she's studied and published extensively on the issue of Indigenous health. And she's taking up the issue of Indigenous women across the country who say they were forced or not properly consulted about their decision to undergo medical sterilization.
It's scary to know that your life is in someone's hands like that, and they could just do whatever they want without your consent.
I would never forget it. I felt literally less than a woman. Oh my God, I can't even explain. Emotionally, I was like, I cried and I cried. I was like, they took part of my womanhood. I was really messed up for a while.
Without him coming to do this, and whenever you go too far, the earth would be doomed without him doing it, man. Okay?
Federal courts found that medical care in California prisons violated the constitutional ban on cruel and unusual punishment. The courts set up what they call a federal receiver's office. Its job is to oversee the medical care for all the inmates in California. They're responsible for enforcing the ban on sterilizations. However, according to a 2008 document from the receiver's office itself, they knew sterilizations were continuing. Justice Now says this raises serious concerns about whether the receiver's office was doing its job.
Let's read some more. So that's it on informed consent. And a medical procedure like a hysterectomy would never be performed against a detainee's will. Meaning, of course, the detainee I don't know no detainee that wants a hysterectomy. So, of course, you informing them if they don't have this hysterectomy that they going to die, or their pain will never go away, or they don't have no alternative. I can almost guarantee it. I could almost guarantee that's what they're doing.
Tens of thousands were forcibly sterilized throughout the 20th century across the US. They were deemed, quote, feeble-minded and inappropriate candidates for reproduction.
I was a victim of rape, and as a result of the rape, I became pregnant, had my son, went into the hospital, and I was sterilized. They sterilized me without my knowledge or consent.
I mean, there are various stages to this. First of all, in the pressure that your guardian, your grandmother at the time, was put under to have you taken into custody by a social worker, is that correct?
Yes.
And did she, the authorities say that she gave her consent for you to be both taken into custody and sterilized?
Well, you have to remember my grandmother was coerced into signing an X for me to become sterilized, but she didn't understand what sterilization or tubal ligation was at that time. All she knew, I believe, is that her food supplements were being threatened to being taken away from her if she did not consent.
Elaine, when did you find out that you had been sterilized?
Well, I didn't find out until I was 19.
And what were the circumstances?
Well, I had gotten married at the age of 18, and my husband and I, we decided to wait at least a year before we decided to start our family. And we did just that, but in the process, I kept getting sick, and we found out that I had been sterilized, and that was it.
And as a result, those sisters submit themselves just like you do with people all over the world. You do it with even governments, man. The story still is not told on whether or not, in exchange for help in Haiti, did they implement a sterilization program with vaccines? You know what I mean? I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but this accusation right here is obviously something that is going on up in there, and that's probably the tip of the iceberg. You understand? That's probably the tip of the iceberg. We are dealing with a people that are incapable of being just and right. and forthright with people. That's why the scripture said, and children and women rule over them. Like that is so true, because a woman that's untaught and you give her power and she's not taught by the Lord, she almost cannot resist using that power in some cruel way. It's just her nature. It's her nature. If she have power and she ain't been taught and she ain't under no husband or father or priest, then it is almost guaranteed she's going to abuse any power that she receives. Okay, whether it be the license to drive a car, or to be the executive over, a corporation, or empowered with rank in the military, or whatever the case is, she's going to bring her emotions into it if she's not taught right by the Lord, and she's going to abuse that power in some way, shape, or form. And that's Esau's the same way. He's like a woman, which the Lord called him that, because he does the same thing. He cannot resist abusing you with his power.
Elaine, I mean, you did attempt to sue the state once before. I think many people will find it pretty amazing that the jury decided that you were not unlawfully deprived of your right to bear children.
Well, first, you also have to look at the mentality of the jury and who they were. You have to remember that during the time that before it went to the Supreme Court, the people that was on the jury was none of my equal, none of my color, or none of my age. Okay, so they, of course, and all of them were from North Carolina.
He just loves it too damn much. He loves it so much, and so did not just him. All the nations of the world are this way, and it's why the Lord gonna put them in chains. He gonna fix this world, man, and put them in a place where they should be. Listen, and let's go. Wait a minute. Let me show you a video about this informed consent. You got to see this. This is the governor of Virginia, y'all. This is just 1 year ago. The governor of Virginia, before the coronavirus. So you can't say it's the coronavirus. Listen to this governor of Virginia talking about late term abortions, which boy, we should have been wide awake on that. When they started talking about late term abortions, they started talking about really genocide, because late term abortions, in essence, you saying is the baby's going to come out alive. So either you got to kill that baby in the womb and pull him out in pieces, or you're going to have to bring that baby out alive and kill that baby. And I've already heard some reports that they talking about bringing the baby out and drilling the baby in the head. But I got news for you. They ready to take it to another level. According to this governor of Virginia, they ready to take this abortion to another level. And here's why. Because the money.
Once you're in there, it's as if you're treated as an animal, as that you have no rights. No one's gonna care, because basically you've been to prison, so they feel like that you're less than, and that you don't deserve to have kids. You committed a crime, you're in prison, you're doing your time, and they're thinking that, yeah, we're doing society a favor by not letting you reproduce.
We were told Dr. Heinrich was too ill to speak to us for this film. In an earlier interview, he denied pressuring anyone and said the money spent to perform these operations in prison was small compared to what you save in welfare paying for these unwanted children as they procreate more.
They will sell their mother. You understand? Like when you read that scripture in Genesis where it says that Esau sold his birthright, now you understand why the Lord had such disdain for Esau for selling that birthright. Because he would sell anything for his self-gain. Now, he will sell anything. Now, check this out, y'all. Y'all got to hear this. This is, I'm about to play you, is just insane.
Virginia's governor says he has no regrets on his comments earlier this week defending abortion, even as a baby is being born. In a news conference yesterday, Ralph Northam said Democrats believe legislatures, most of whom are men, should not be making decisions about women's choices for their reproductive health.
Let me get in here. You hear how he said medical personnel should not be telling women how to, that's a smokescreen. That's to make it sound like, boy, this beast is such a snake. He makes it sound like he's on your side. but really, he's trying to exterminate you. You're going to see it in this report.
Pro-life leaders say it shows just how radical abortion supporters are, and they hope to use this issue to persuade the country to vote pro-life in 2020.
Said yesterday. Here's what Virginia's governor did say.
So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated.
Listen. He said the infant, listen to this, y'all. It's genocide. He said the infant would be delivered. Then he said it would be kept comfortable. Check this out, y'all. This is crazy. This is a year ago now. This is crazy talk. Go ahead. Let me get a little more.
That's what the mother and the family desired, and a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So
now, wait a minute. Then a discussion would be ensued. We're talking about abortion, fam. We're talking about abortion. So in other words, the baby would be delivered, and then the baby would be kept comfortable, and then a discussion would go on with the doctors and the mother. And here's the part, like I said, informed consent. It's an evil, evil word, because of course the doctor is going to say you should not keep this baby for A, B, C, and D. This woman's laying on the gurney, just had this baby, full of emotions, full of narcotics, and God knows what else. And they're going to turn around and say, of course, you should not keep this baby. And if she say no, they're going to murder that baby in the next room. Check it out. They're going to murder that baby in the next room. This is insanity, man. It's insanity. What's going on in these detention centers is insanity. Check it out.
This is infanticide that we're talking about.
Republican Ben Sasse blasts Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia for supporting a bill in his state that would have allowed abortion up until and during birth.
We're talking about a little baby girl who's been born and is on a table in a hospital or a medical facility, and then a decision or a debate would be had about whether or not you could kill that little baby.
Now Senator Sasse is fast-tracking his bill to protect children who survive abortions.
Everyone in the Senate ought to be able to say unequivocally that killing that little baby is wrong. This doesn't take any political courage. And if you can't say that, if there's a member of this body that can't say that, there may be lots of work you can do in the world, but you shouldn't be here.
Listen, that is crazy talk. And of course, where are black leaders at? That's what I thought. Your black preacher, your disgusting black preacher in the church who's telling all his members to vote for these different black leaders. And all these people, these millions of our people following these leaders and following these monsters, man, who for profit, for money, are going to turn around and let them take that baby and murder that baby. And here's I don't know how true this is. This is a little, what I'm about to say next is a bit conspiratorial, so I don't want to say that this is actually the case, but this is the theory, and I could see this because of Esau's monstrosity. The idea that's floated around is that this procedure is being done this way because the baby would still be alive. So then that baby, once that mother decides she's not having that baby is no longer considered alive. But they ain't gonna just go into the other room and kill that baby. They're gonna go into the other room and harvest the organs and parts of that baby and then kill that baby. So this is all, once again, this is about grubby money. This ain't really about a woman's right to, end the baby's life after the 9 months. She done had it 9 months. The baby come out and she still got time to decide whether or not she want to murder this baby after it's born and everything. This is what they want to pass now. They want to pass this bill. Okay, this is what they want to pass. And you telling me they ain't torturing and doing all manner of hell on our Latino sisters sitting in them detention centers with their children trying to survive? I couldn't even understand how you could be a woman with a child incarcerated in a prison. Like that in itself would just unnerve you. Like every woman must be coming out of there with PTSD just from the so total fear of danger of having a child, which is natural to a woman. You have a child, you naturally, want to protect that child. So God knows what mindset you're going to come out of there after having to try and survive and keep that baby safe. It's complete insanity, man.
So when I heard stories like these, naturally, I tried to check them out.
Corey analyzed records of the most common methods of sterilization carried out in California's prisons over the last 14 years. He found a system riddled with questionable procedures and noticed that in 2006, the sterilization spiked. That was when Dr. James Heinrich became the chief OBGYN at Valley State Prison.
My name is Crystal Nguyen. I spent 5.5 years at Valley State Prison for Women.
Crystal was serving time for her part in an armed robbery committed by her boyfriend. At 19, Crystal found herself pregnant and behind bars.
Dr. Heinrich was the main GYN doctor there at the time when I first got there. When I first saw him, he looked like, he looks like a nice guy. But when I would ask him questions about my pregnancy, he would laugh at it and make me feel stupid.
Crystal was under Dr. Heinrich's care during her pregnancy. Her baby was taken away less than 3 days after she gave birth.
They came and they got him. I felt like I was really alone now.
It's complete insanity. And meanwhile, you walking around in the earth talking about Jesus love everybody and God want us all to come together. You can drop dead with that garbage, man. You can drop dead with that kind of garbage, because this world gonna have to be governed by Christ, the angels, and the men of God, because otherwise I can't even see how anybody will survive in this place. And the scriptures say the exact same thing I'm saying. That is crazy. So according to them, once again, just to wrap it up on that part, they want you to have the baby and then to make the baby comfortable and then turn around and say, well, let's have a discussion. Yeah, Mrs. So-and-so, Mrs. Brown, you should not keep this baby. And meanwhile, the doctors and everybody getting paid off of this baby if she don't keep the baby. If she don't keep the baby, they get paid off the baby. And here's what the Frankenstein part of it is. The Frankenstein part of it is they're going to encourage you to have them babies full term if they got issues. Why? Because they're going to want you to have it full term, have it alive, then say you giving it up, so then they can now turn around and harvest them organs. They, in essence, are making you give them permission to murder a baby that is born. And if that ain't genocide, I don't know what the hell is. And if we ain't picked up and record, and here's the thing, who knows what they're going to do with the baby? Who knows what experiments and what hell and pain and torture they're going to put this child through? Who knows? Because now it's considered not alive. You done gave it up. It's considered not alive. And that's why God's prophets should be raised up. That's why everybody should hear my voice on these things that I'm saying. And these things are we look at as not being the priority. But that's the problem with us. We don't think putting the Lord first is the priority, which is why we keep stumbling into trap after trap after trap, because we're not putting the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments as our guiding rod on what we should and should not do. If we stuck to those things, we would know that abortion is illegal with God. Okay? Where are your Democrats at? Where's the part of the Democratic Party that's against that? And then Democrats being such Christians, man.
Sass noted it's the biggest debate in the country over the last couple of days. But yesterday, Democrats claimed they hadn't heard Governor Northam's comments.
I'm sorry, I just don't know what he said yesterday.
On this election night, Democrats have picked up 2 wins in the biggest races. Ralph Northam has outpaced Republican Ed Gillespie in the Virginia governor's race.
So church cranked. That's why I don't have no respect for no churches, man. You so cranktified in them churches, so self-righteous, man. So walking around like you just the authority about God. And meanwhile, you ain't got no voice when it comes to this. You got no voice. They talking about bringing in third trimester babies, and the Democrats are fully on board. You black leaders, man, you black leaders should run and hide from God. If I was you. If I was you, I'd run and hide from God, because what you got coming in the way of biblical prophecy and judgment, I would not want to be in your shoes. I would not want to be in your shoes for what's coming down the pipe for you, man, because it's insane. Let me finish this up, and I'm going to pull a couple scriptures on this. Here's what it says. Wooten said that she and other nurses had noticed female detainees getting hysterectomies at an improbable rate, meaning it was improbable that this many women would have needed hysterectomies. Meanwhile, they say, oh, it was only 2 since 2018. And worried that the women didn't understand what procedure they were receiving, as most medical staff members don't speak English. They in the prison, the medical staff don't even speak English. No, they don't even know what they're getting. They are totally, they ain't even clear. Meanwhile, they taking them in there and taking their womb out, claiming that they need this based on whatever. These immigrant women, I don't think they really totally or all the way understand that this is what's going to happen depending on who explains it to them, she said in the complaint. The report did not detail any detainees who said they had received a hysterectomy, against their will. Of course not. They all signed the paper after being cajoled into it or fooled into it. One woman anonymously quoted in the complaint said that she was scheduled for the procedure without her consent, but that it was canceled when she tested positive for the COVID-19. The Washington Post, hold on a second. Priyanka Phat, staff attorney at Project South, acknowledged to the Washington Post that she did not speak to any woman who had a forced sterilization and said she included the allegation in the report with the intentions of triggering an investigation. So they trying to say now that it was all BS, that she did it to trigger an investigation. Okay, this is what she put in there. Let's see. Okay. Let's get a little bit more on this whole, just a little bit on the whole outbreak situation. This is, it's crazy. ICE declined on Monday to comment in more detail on the border allegations in the complaint, which also alleges widespread failures to adhere to COVID-19 safety policies at the Georgia prison, man. But the agency did cast doubt about its use of anonymous testimony from detainees and former detainees to bolster Wooten's claims. In general, anonymous, unproven allegations made without any fact-checkable specifics should be treated with the appropriate skepticism. They're trying to act like it never happened. ICE has faced scrutiny over its handling of the coronavirus at detention centers, with the Inspector General opening an investigation. The Inspector General opened an investigation. It must have meant something. On Friday, the Washington Post reported ICE had fueled a large COVID-19 outbreak at a Virginia facility by flying detainees there to facilitate the deployment of ICE agents to Washington to quell protests. Insane. These people are monsters. They turned around and flew ICE agents to the facility. I mean, first of all, to have a reason to fly ICE agents to the protest, because they couldn't just fly them to the protest. So to have a reason to fly them to the protest, they gathered up a bunch of detainees and flew them over to the Virginia facility. Dropped them off at the Virginia facility, and then the agents was able to go participate in the protest in Washington. And then because they did that, they had a whole full-out outbreak in this Virginia facility. It's crazy, man. This is crazy. Okay. To quell the protest. That was when all them protests were going on, and they were getting near Washington, and they got all scared, and they was flying in soldiers from everywhere they can get them from. ICE flew the detainees to Virginia so the planes could transport agents to DC protests at a huge coronavirus outbreak followed right afterward. On Monday night, ICE defended its handling of the coronavirus, which the agency says has infected nearly 5,700 detainees nationwide and led to 6 deaths. It's probably way higher than that. ICE epidemiologists have been tracking the outbreak regularly, updating infection prevention and control protocols, and using guidance and giving and issuing guidance to ICE Health Service Corp staff for the screening and management of potential exposure among detainees, the agency said. But Wooten says there was widespread disregard for protecting the staff members and inmates at the Georgia facility. The nurse worked at Irwin for 3 years over the course of separate stints, she told the Intercept being the one that produced this part of the article, but was demoted in July to an on-call position with few hours. Retaliation, she claimed, for demanding stricter adherence to medical rules. They're still not taking this seriously, Wooten told the Intercept. Enough was enough. That after that, she had to make that complaint, man. She had to bring that complaint all the way in. One more last part. She issued a 27-page complaint filed Monday. Details a laundry list of alleged failures at the facility. Detainees being ignored or denied tests despite having coronavirus symptoms. Others who have tested positive being placed back in general population, and officials fudging the statistics on the number of infections, man. Brother, this is crazy. This is crazy talk. You understand? This is crazy talk. Here's what the Lord said. This is Psalms 137, 8 and 9. Y'all know this. O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed. That's what this empire is. This empire is the daughter of Babylon because it's doing exactly what ancient Babylon did. Twice. Ancient Babylon brought all nations together and empowered themselves over it. The second Babylon having over 100 provinces across the world. Built them a super empire, just like this empire is. This is the daughter of it because the philosophy is exactly the same. The same philosophy, man. Okay. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. This is biblical prophecy. God said this, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Now you know why these harsh words are in the Bible. They're in the Bible to wake you up, and they're in the Bible to warn those who are about to be punished and destroyed for the evil that they've done. Even though they ignore it. It don't matter that they ignore it. They still catch it when that time comes. You can try to ignore it, but when that time comes, it ain't nothing you can do. You're going to get what you're supposed to get. Okay, here's what the 9th verse says. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Like, that's such a cruel thing to say. It's a cruel thing to say, happy shall he be that take your little ones and dash them against the stone. Like, that's a cruel statement. Why is that statement in the Bible? Because man is cruel. Because man is cruel. People have read that statement and called God unjust, but their cruelty to other people and their cruelty to the Lord's 12 tribes, they never count that. And that's why that's in there. It's in there because of your cruelty to God's chosen people. You have ruled the earth for your time. Time to recognize it's time to go home. You had a good time. You ate good. You had some good drinks. You danced and partied. You had a wonderful time. It's time to go home. Time to pack up and go home. Time to sip your last sip of that beer. It's time to, wave out to the band. Time to call a taxi. You're heading home to the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia, between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, above the Gulf of Aqaba. Your true home awaits you. Welcome home, because that's what's next. So the Lord, that's why that's in there like it is, man. Let me get another one. Get Isaiah 49, my favorite, one of my favorites. Isaiah 49 and 25. Here's what the Lord said, 25 and 26. But thus saith the Lord, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away. Right now, it looks like what I'm saying is not important because the 12 tribes of Israel are in total devastation and captivity. But the Lord said, man, even the prey of the mighty, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away. They're going to be taken away. And the prey of the terrible, because that's what this is. Like those Latino brothers and sisters in them detention centers, they the prey of the terrible. and the terrible are the rulers of this world and this empire. And they are the prey of them terrible, terrible people, man. Shall be delivered, for I will contend with him that contendeth with thee. That's what I pray for. I pray for the Lord's righteous judgment to bring righteousness into this earth, man. To bring righteousness into this earth. For him to straighten out that which is crooked, man. And to bring this earth. It was made to be a paradise. I can't wait till it's that. We're going to live 1,000 generations in paradise. You ain't going to understand that yet. But you will. The hand of the Most High comes down with pain and suffering so you can get right. And I will save thy children. This is God's word. I will save thy children. Because right now, your children are in danger, man. They in danger from the day of conception. They even in danger after. It used to be they was safe once the baby came out. They ain't even safe then. It's insane. 26th verse. And I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh. Wow, that's rough. And they shall be drunken with their own blood. Lord, is rough, man, when you do him dirty like this. And as with sweet wine, and all flesh shall know that I am the Lord. That I, the Lord, am Savior and thy Redeemer, O mighty one of Jacob. Huh? You the mighty one of Jacob, you 12 lost tribes of Israel. Them brothers and sisters, them poor little peasants sitting up in them cages, they the Lord's chosen people. They served a horrible punishment for what they did. But you oppressing them is going to end, and it's not going to end good. It's going to end like them wildfires. It's going to end like them tornadoes and them storms. It's going to end like this coronavirus. It's going to end like whatever's coming next that's getting ready to come on board. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. And it has to be bad so that Christ can get his kingdom like he should and put the whole world in its proper order, man, like it should be. Let me get a little bit more. This is Isaiah 54 and 11. Here's what it says. Isaiah 54 and 11. O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest. That's so blacks and Latinos and native in it. You afflicted, you in poverty, you blind, you don't even know who you are. You lost all your identity. You fighting each other, you destroy. Tossed with tempest, meaning a tempest is like a storm. And when a storm comes, it tosses you up out of your position. You've seen them in many movies and in many film footages and on many news channels. You see that tempest come and a ton of debris flying in the air because of that tempest. The Lord said that's how blacks and Latinos and natives live in this country, man. In this and around the world. You living like somebody that's been tossed. You afflicted, and you somebody tossed in a tempest. And you literally like you tossed in a tempest. They throwing you out your houses, kicking you off your jobs, pulling you out of your car, murdering you in the car, putting charges on you, incarcerating you, not educating you, giving you bad food, creating conflict between you and your woman with laws, brainwashing you on TV, teaching you to fight against each other. You like you in a tempest, man. You like you in a storm and not comforted, and you ain't seeing no way out of it. You ain't seeing how to calm this storm, how to get life back to normal, how to chill out. But here's what the Lord says, same verse. Behold, I will lay thy stones with fair colors. Boy, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. When he say I shall lay thy stones, meaning I'm gonna lay your foundation. Like you build a house, he said I'm gonna lay this foundation. It's gonna be so bad. This foundation gonna be laid with fair colors, man. It's gonna be beautiful. In other words, instead of just using a regular stone, imagine if somebody built a house and said, man, the foundation stones are gonna be made with diamonds and rubies and pearls. You know, if the foundation is made with diamonds and rubies and pearls, how beautiful is the house gonna be? Well, that's what the Lord is saying he gonna do with you. You ain't that now. You destroyed now. But he said, I'm gonna lay your foundations with fair colors. And here's what he said, and lay thou foundations with sapphires. You're going to make what you built from beautiful. And how do you get built? How do you get a foundation made with sapphires? Laws, statutes, and commandments. Something you've been hearing us say since the 60s. Laws, statutes, commandments. Laws that you live by, statutes that must be kept and respected. and commandments, things the Lord and Christ and the prophets told you directly to do. Commandments. This is how you get set up to do what's right. And this is how you build a foundation as though it was on sapphires. Here's what he said, 12th verse. And I will make thy windows of agates and thy gates of carbuncles, man. That's the beauty he's gonna make you, man. Meaning beautiful stones, man. Like these are stones and jewels that the Lord gonna build you. Let me read it again, 54 and 12. I will make thy windows of agates and thy gates of carbuncle, meaning he's gonna make them sparkle and beautiful. That's where the Esau get the stained glass from. You ever wonder where they get the stained glass from? They get it from out the scriptures. They know that the scriptures spoke about how beautiful the glass would be in that kingdom with the different colors and the different styles, okay? Here's what it says. And all thy borders of pleasant stones. He's gonna make us absolutely amazingly beautiful, man. They're gonna see us, other nations gonna see us, and they're gonna say, truly we are angels, we are not humans. But we're gonna be humans, but to them it's gonna be like we angels. Here's what he said, Isaiah 54:13. And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children, man. You hear that? All the Lord's children gonna be taught by him, man. And great shall be our peace, meaning our peace gonna be great. There'll never be danger. We'll never see this kind of danger and madness again, because Christ will rule the earth, and with power and authority, man. Okay, he gonna rule this earth with absolute extreme power on top of these nations, man. They gonna suffer for the way they've operated on this earth, and they will never be given a chance to utilize that kind of evil power again. They think they can now. They think they're going somewhere. But many nations have tried to do what this nation and these empires are doing. But they all going into captivity for a period of time. And they're going to straighten out the mess that they created. And the Lord going to raise up these 12 tribes. This biblical prophecy is coming to pass. You watching it unfold in front of your eyes, which is why you should be getting on board. Let me read the 14th verse, Isaiah 54:14. What you've learned in church is a lie. The Lord is not putting everybody ain't coming together in a rainbow. We would have done it already. Because that's what the philosophy of every nation around the world is, that we all come together in love and harmony. We've been saying it and saying it and saying it while destroying the planet, destroying the water, destroying the air, trying to destroy outer space, definitely trying to destroy each other on the face of this earth. Christ got to rule. The 12 tribes got to be put back in charge. Here's what the 14th verse says. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression, man. That's the future. Thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near you. This will end. This madness and this insanity, it's gonna come to an end, man. And when it does, it's gonna be a beautiful, righteous day on the face of this earth at that time. And Lord knows we need it, because good night. This particular case is insane. All right, fam, I'll see y'all on the next one. I want you to stay strong in the spirit of the Lord. Hey, listen, if you like this tape, hit the like button and share it, man. Hit the share button. Everybody share it to their own personal Facebook accounts. Share this video, man, to wake up brothers and sisters all over this earth. Hit the like button. Check me out Monday night. I'm live every Monday night. I bring the heavy hitters in. We do it up live right on this same channel. I'll see you then, Israel. Y'all take care.